Okay guys, in today's video we're going to be going over the results of some polls that I recently did on my channel, and we got a lot of votes for these polls, and I just think it's interesting to look at this information. I know a lot of people tell me that these polls that I put out on my channel that people vote for don't really matter because they're going to be very skewed, because I am a more PlayStation centric channel now. Therefore, a lot of people who are subscribed and vote on these polls have a PlayStation bias or something like that. But I don't really care. I still think the information is interesting and fascinating to look over. So we're going to discuss that, and I want to let you guys know, I don't normally do this, but I came across this video from a YouTuber called Lance McDonald. I'll see if I can get his channel or the actual link to that video, put it down in the description below. This individual actually found a way to break out of PT and explore what was going to actually be the town of Silent Hills, and it was absolutely incredible and extremely depressing. And really, I think a lot of people, anybody who was interested in PT, you should go check this out, because it's actually insane how much detail was put into the world of Silent Hills, how much work was put into it, into an area that you couldn't even explore, that wasn't even playable, at least at the time being. And it just got me thinking, like, man, I really hope that the next game we get from Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions is a horror game, because the amount of potential that was there, man, something has to be done with it, right? Like, even if Kojima just takes some or most of the ideas that he had for Silent Hills and puts it into a new game, a new IP or something, I think that would be amazing. But I just had to put that in here at the beginning of the video, because it was just incredible. Like, I couldn't believe what this guy did. But moving on from that, we're going to go over this poll here. We're going to talk about the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, or both. That was essentially the question I had asked you guys, and this poll actually garnered the most votes I've ever gotten on a poll, with over 20,000 of you voting. And the results, I can't say are that interesting. They're kind of expected, but still, it just tells me that the hype is real for the PlayStation 5. 80% of you voted for the PlayStation 5. 80%. I think about 5% voted for just the Xbox Series X, and about 14% voted for both, which is interesting, because I specifically put both there just to see how many people would click that. And I was expecting more people to choose that option, simply because if you have the option for both, will you take it? And a lot of you actually left comments and were just giving your reasoning as to why you chose the PlayStation 5. And so I figured I would just read a few of those comments here. Trey Productions said, PlayStation 5, bro, it's going to have the best exclusives. I feel like I cannot argue with that one. I do believe it will have the best exclusives if this current generation is anything to go by with some of the games we've gotten, right? Louis says PS5 and PC, that's all you really need. And yeah, see, that's an interesting thing that I continually see come up when it comes to Xbox, is how a lot of people just feel as though they already have a PC that's capable of doing some, gaming. So what is the point of getting an Xbox, considering you can play all of Xbox's games on PC if you own one? So that is a really big reason why I think people would not choose both, and specifically just choose the PlayStation 5. Colt3945 says, why buy an Xbox when I have a perfect gaming PC that plays all Xbox titles? I just need a PS5. And the thing is, these comments I'm reading are the most upvoted comments in this thread. In fact, that last comment by Colt3945, that is the most upvoted comment I've come across so far, with over 325 upvotes. So it seems like a lot of people agree with this line of thinking. Kent says, I need to see a full lineup in games before I can commit. However, Sony has stated that they are committed to continuing their single-player games, and that makes me lean towards PlayStation. So I like that comment, because the guy, Kent here isn't just diving in. He's actually still seemingly a little bit hesitant, but he's basically pointing out that if you're going to go with anybody, Sony's probably the one to go with, because they've talked about their commitment to single-player games, and there is something to be said for that. Chidori Hokage, hopefully I'm saying that right, Says the Xbox Series X looks good though, but since I have a PC, I'd rather buy a PS5 for the exclusives. So yeah, you're starting to see a kind of a running theme here with the PlayStation 5 and why people are choosing it. And believe it or not, a lot of people are choosing it because of the exclusive games. This is why I've talked about the importance of exclusive games when it comes to console manufacturers wanting to sell their console. If you want to sell it and you want it to be successful, you need to have exclusives to some extent. I've always even said that when it comes to Microsoft, if they could just have 1 or 2 games that are just exclusive to the box, that would go a long way for them in convincing people to buy Xbox consoles. But we know that Microsoft isn't going to do that. Connor says here that PlayStation all the way. I've never truly been disappointed by PlayStation. I have been disappointed by Xbox. Kenshin GT, just PS5, Xbox titles I will play on PC. TM, PS5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man 2, God of War 2, Days Gone 2, and more. I'm with PS5 or PS6, LOL. Ray Green or Ryan, PS5, never really been a fan of Xbox. Roman says, honestly, Horizon 2 alone is enough reason for me to choose PlayStation over Xbox. Tan Wham says, Xbox are effing done. Dan B says, Xbox has to build a library of good exclusives before I buy. And yeah, it just kind of continues. I haven't really seen many people here really advocating for the Xbox, and not many people really say too much about choosing both. This person here says, poll so he can see how to sway his opinions to his audience. Ha ha ha, YouTubers just actors. Not necessarily. I mean, the reason why I do these polls is because it's interesting to see. I mean, if it was like a different result here where like 50% of people voted for the Xbox Series X, I'd be pretty surprised, but I'd be very interested in hearing the reasoning, right? And that's the thing we have to pay attention to with polls like this is I'm not just interested in the data itself. I mean, the data itself is extremely interesting to see the results, statistically speaking, but it's extremely interesting to see the reasonings that people give. And even the comments that get the most upvotes, where the majority of people agree, people want to think that, like this individual who's being a cynic here, they want to believe that I'm just doing this so that I can adjust myself or whatever. Not really. I mean, obviously, I'm voting for PS5, and obviously one of the biggest reasons for that is because of the exclusive games. And those are the reasonings, right? The reasons why people are not choosing both is because a lot of people are not going to buy both. They're both going to be very expensive consoles. Most people are just going to go with the PlayStation 5 because it's like I've said time and time again, when you stack up the two consoles against one another, the Xbox's greatest weakness will always be, well, there's games that will be on offer for Xbox that I can get in other places if I really want to. I could potentially already have access to them with the PC I currently own. However, with PlayStation, if I want to play some of these games, I can only do so on this specific piece of hardware. So yeah. Moving on from that, though, I want to go over one other poll that I think is just as interesting, maybe even a little bit more interesting, actually, that I put out the other day. And I thought, I'm going to put up a poll asking people to pick one of the 3 biggest PlayStation exclusive games that are coming out next year. Now, I am aware that Final Fantasy VII Remake being on this list, it is a year-timed exclusive, but I'm just going to count it as an exclusive right now because anybody who's interested in this game, even remotely, they're going to be playing it on PlayStation. That's just the truth. Anybody who's actually that excited for Final Fantasy VII, highly unlikely they're going to wait to play it on a different platform, especially when we don't know exactly which platform or platforms it's going to be releasing on after that year-timed exclusivity is up. But the question I asked kept it simple. Gun to your head, you can only pick one. And I gave the options of Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. And believe it or not, this poll actually garnered over 18,000 votes, which I wasn't expecting that much, but absolutely crazy. And Ghost of Tsushima sits at 22%. Final Fantasy VII Remake sits at 12%, and The Last of Us Part 2 comes in the lead here with a whopping 66%. And I think that that's pretty significant because it just kind of highlights, at least based off of these 18,000 votes, just how excited people are for The Last of Us Part 2. And reading some of the comments, it's interesting here. Brandon says, I get why The Last of Us 2 is high, but I have voted for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's going to be mind-blowing like it did in 1997. Let the reunion begin. It's also the nostalgia and the emotional journey I had back in the day and the memories. So that's actually one of the most upvoted comments, and that's interesting because even though Final Fantasy VII Remake came in last place, you can tell the people who were voting for this are very passionate about it, and I've seen the excitement surrounding this game, and there's no doubt that all of these games are going to do well. Obviously, we don't have to choose in this way. We can have access to all of these games, but it's just interesting to see what people vote for. Like, if you could only pick one, which one would you pick? Keegan here says, definitely The Last of Us Part 2, but I'm so excited about Ghost of Tsushima. Alex Ruiz says, there was no need to think, The Last of Us Part 2 for sure. Queena says, I have to go with Ghost of Tsushima. It looks like a game you want to play before you die. The idea is by picking one game here, you get to live. If you can't pick one, or you feel like you need to pick more than one, then you don't. That's the idea of the game, I guess, you know. But Deadpool Life says The Last of Us Part 2, not even a second thought. And Marco says, LOL, good poll, MBG. One of my finest gaming moments of all time is Final Fantasy VII back when I was 16. I'm getting all 3 games, but at 39 now, I simply feel like 16-year-old me again, and I cannot wait to play Final Fantasy VII once again. So yeah, that's the thing with Final Fantasy VII is, like I said, people are just, they have this connection to that game. Somebody says here, what the F, people, Final Fantasy VII all the way. Robert says, The Last of Us, no way would I choose anything else. The Dreamer says, sorry, but The Last of Us is too good to ignore. Samuel says, in my 30s, it's got to be Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've never in my life anticipated a game so much. Genuinely gutted to see the lack of hype here. Well, see, the thing is, I don't think there's a lack of hype. I just think that people, I don't know. It just seems to me that people want to see the continuation of the Last of Us universe, right? Because the difference between that and I'd say Final Fantasy VII is that with Final Fantasy VII, it is a story that has been told already, and I know there will be some new elements. But I don't think it's that there's a lack of hype. I just think it's that the intrigue for seeing what's going to happen with Joel and Ellie a second time around, just a brand new story, I think has their interest piqued a little bit more. But again, it's great that we don't have to worry about this. You know, no putting a gun to any of our heads. We get to play all 3 of these games. Again, I just think it's an interesting case study to see which game most people are hyped for here. And I think that for me, if I had to choose, just like I said with my earlier poll, I would choose the PS5, obviously, hands down. I can't even say I would choose both the PS5 and Xbox Series X, because I have an Xbox One X currently, so I would choose the PS5 easily. In this case, it would have to be The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, I hate to be the guy that's like, I'm going to go with the one that's most voted for, but it really is. Final Fantasy VII, like, I never played the original, and I know to some people that may sound crazy, so it's hard for me to feel, like, super excited for it, but I think I'm willing to give it a chance if I have the time to play it. I think a lot of my audience is going to be interested in me playing that and hearing my thoughts as somebody who's never played the first one. Ghost of Tsushima I'm also incredibly excited about, but there's just something about The Last of Us Part 2. If I had to give my reasoning for why I would choose that, it's like I said earlier, I want to see what happens in this universe. I want to see if this is the last time we see Joel and Ellie, right? I want to know how their story ends, and that is a very exciting prospect to me. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I just wanted to go over these polls. There's not a whole lot of news or interesting rumors or information to go over right now because we're winding down for the holiday. But I thought that this stuff would be interesting to go over. I'm absolutely blown away by how many votes some of these polls get. That's why I enjoy doing them. Again, not just to see the data, but I like to read a lot of your responses and go through, and I try my best to go through all of them, and it's just really interesting to me. So at this point, I'm going to ask you to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about these 2 polls? Do you agree with the results of these polls? If not, let me know why down below, and let me know if you have any other interesting poll ideas, if there's any different polls you would like me to do in the future. Maybe we could do more videos talking about them. I am only one person. I can only come up with so many. So if there's anything that comes to mind that you would like to vote on, leave it down below as a suggestion. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it. It really helps. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.